Welcome to the Ties Are Off podcast, where we discuss and help with everything property and mortgage related. I'm Dave Spear.
I'm Andrew Foligno.
And I'm Tom Edmunds. In today's podcast, we're going to give you some area stats for Swansea. Me and Dav are going to talk about preparing your house for sale. Andrew will be telling us all about a very different way of getting your deposit ready for your home. And of course, we're going to finish with the tip of the week. So please make sure you listen to the end. But first, we've got our quiz. So Dav, what's the first question to the quiz?
Okay. Question 1 is, what name is given to the tax which often must be paid to the government on the purchase price of a property?
And question 2, how old is the average first-time buyer?
And question 3 for me, what is the minimum amount of employment proof you need to provide to a mortgage lender to get a mortgage?
And what's question 4? I know that's about mortgages and...
That is also about mortgages. A credit file is needed when you're making your mortgage application. Is that true or false? So a credit report, you might know it as, is a credit file needed, true or false?
And Davy, question 5 to finish off.
Question 5, how many property squares are there on a Monopoly board?
Tidy.
No cheating.
No cheating.
So we've changed a little bit of the structure of what we're going to be doing on every podcast now, and it's introducing stats and figures for particular areas. We're going to start with Swansea because it's our hometown, but it's an opportunity for you guys to interact with us a little bit more as well on every podcast, and find out some figures about your area. We'll link in with that a bit later on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding a bit more about different areas as well. So we're going to start off with the best average yield for rental in Swansea. And we're going to do it by postcode. So SA1, so closest to the central business district, I guess, has got an 8.4% yield according to propertydata.co.uk. What about the best bang for your buck, Dav?
So best bang for your buck in Swansea currently is in the postcode SA9, where the price per square footage is £135 per square footage.
Right.
The most expensive house on the market in Swansea at the moment is on the market for a whopping 1.899 million. That's wrong. The most expensive house on the market in Swansea at the moment is on the market for £1,899,000, and it's a 6-bedder in Langland Road in Mumbles.
That's a big old chunk of money.
Wouldn't mind that, to be fair. I wouldn't mind that.
Well, going off that then, so we got the cheapest as well, and the cheapest property at the moment is set in Manselton at just £4,500.
And there's a reason that we know about this, isn't there?
There is indeed.
Andrew inquired about this house with us to see to find a bit of information about it. But this one you think you've got to be a bit wary of, I guess.
Yes.
Dav, explain why.
Yeah, there's only approximately, just over a year and a half left on the lease. And we'll go into further detail on the bits and pieces with leases and freeholds and all of that stuff on another podcast. But yeah, it's a bit of a
you definitely
bit of a tricky one.
Definitely wouldn't be able to get a mortgage on this property, and
no mortgage on a
$4,500 there's even more dangers. So if you are looking at property leaseholds with really short terms left, you've got to be really, really wary of those. Any more facts?
Number 5.
We've got the average sold price over the last 12 months in Swansea is, according to Zoopla, £217,139. So we're going to try and keep these stats the same sort of things, the same variables we're looking at, so they can be compared over podcast if you're interested. If, for example, if you're looking at investing and you're out of the area, we're hoping these stats will give you a bit of a head start on things to look at and what areas are good and how good the actual town or city is. So it's something we're going to be including. And if you give us an email on sorry, what's the email?
What's the email?
Inquiries at?
Yeah, what is it?
Inquiries at thetiesaroffpodcast.co.uk.
Give us an email and we're going to pick the names out of a hat and we're going to choose them, and we'll look at the stats for your areas in the next few podcasts.
Marvellous.
So looking forward to find out more ourselves.
Happy days, sounds good.
Cheers.
another change to the podcast as well. Each podcast, Andrew's going to provide us with an up-to-date news story, and he's got one for us now, actually.
Yeah. So the news story I have for you is to do with mortgage payments. So according to Quilter are saying that mortgage payments by the end of 2023 could actually decrease by 25%, which to me, especially with what we've been talking about on previous podcasts, is actually a bit of a shock. Obviously we know there are rumours of sort of spikes, but at the end of the year to hear that things could even decrease by December is actually even surprising to us as mortgage advisors and maybe external.
Great news for the property market.
Fab news.
I mean, obviously we mentioned our predictions for the year. It might actually soften that a little bit from what we said last year. Obviously we haven't got a crystal ball. We gave you our predictions, which we will revisit at the end of the year to see how right we were. But this is definitely positive news and might soften that blow, I think.
Yeah, really positive.
Very positive.
This week's property topic. So today we wanted to give you a seller's guide to prepare yourself to put your home on the market.
Yep. So if you're looking at selling now or in the future, we have put together this 3-point plan to get you prepared to get your house on the market. So Tom, what's the first thing you should be looking at?
Okay, so number one, you need to figure out your finances. If you've got a mortgage, dig out the paperwork, speak to your lender. You need to check if there are going to be any early repayment charges for paying it off early, or even switching to a new mortgage with a new lender when you purchase your next house. Or you can check if it's possible to take your mortgage across from your property now to the new property. It's a process known as porting. I'm sure Andrew will touch on it sometime in the future.
Whatever your circumstances, make sure you speak to a mortgage broker, as they can guide you in the right direction and help you decide what is the best situation for you.
Yeah, and also, of course, don't forget the legal fees. Do a little bit of research at this point in how much the conveyancing process will cost. You're going to need to check the cost for buying and selling, if you're planning on buying the next home and not renting it out. But you've got to build this into your finances when you're looking at them. Of course, you're going to need to know the value of your home, which leads us on to point 2. Dav, give us point 2.
Point 2, choosing your estate agent. This is a subject we could go into tremendous detail on, but we're going to try and keep it short and sweet, and possibly in the future we may decide to do a whole section on this.
We'll be talking for hours.
Yes. So, okay. First, make sure you do your homework. Get recommendations from friends and family. These are always our favourite, as these are the people you trust and may have had previous experience with estate agents that they trust or maybe don't. Also, take a look at the Google reviews for the estate agents in your area. Take note of the rating, but also the number of reviews that they have. Other review companies are available, but I don't know if we need to say that or not.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, lots of other companies.
But we find Google to be the most trustworthy.
So from this research, sorry, I was just taking a sip of beer then. From this research, take 2 or 3 of your favourite estate agents, get them booked in to visit your house and carry out a valuation. When they come around, you're obviously going to get a bit of a feel for the agent you warm to the most. Try to make your choice by discovering which agent has the most realistic price point. Listen to episode 1 as well to find out how important the price is at the moment. It's the most important thing in the current market. You want to choose the one that knows the area, seems genuine and honest, and has the best process to market. Look at how they're displaying their other properties on the portals or on their website. How good are their photos? Are they using videos? Do their properties stand out above all others on the portals? How your property is seen is vitally important for getting people through your door. Finally, make sure the agent has got a negotiation plan. If they tick those boxes I've just mentioned, you're not going to go far wrong.
No, not at all. And our final point is to prepare your home. Just need to mention to please not forget, and your agent should make you aware, to make sure your property has an EPC.
EPC. So what's an EPC then, Dav?
EPC is an energy performance certificate that ranks properties in terms of energy efficiency and is a legal requirement when selling your home. It's easy to find these by logging on to the government website and typing in your postcode.
All right then, so when actually preparing your home, to put it simply, all you want to be doing is you've got to tidy up. You want to make as much space as possible, so get rid of the clutter, anything in open spaces. Dav, I think you will agree.
100%.
Get it tucked away. You're also going to want to be getting the little snags sorted out, if you have any. We try to point these out, and you want to get rid of them, try and fix them up, and try and get it clean and tidy.
100%. First impressions count. Give your buyer every opportunity to write their own positive story about your property after they leave your home and whilst they're walking around it as well.
So there you go. There's our 3-point plan about bringing the property to market. There should be enough there to get you started and give you a little more confidence when selling your home. So you've got number 1, figure out your finances. 2, choose your agent. And number 3, prepare your home for the actual sale. Of course, you've got the next steps. You've got viewings, you've got the offers, then the negotiation, the sales progression through to completion. There's a lot more steps to it, but if you choose the right agent, like you've gone through in the strategy for point 2, when that comes around, they'll explain that when they're doing it, and they'll have the process in themselves.
Definitely. So if you're looking at selling now, good luck. And if you want any advice at all, please feel free to drop us an email.
And
what's the email, and?
I'm glad you finished, by the way, because, geez, on the other podcast, I had all that for the mortgages, but bloody hell, been on forever, then. So, it's inquiries at thetizeroffpodcast.co.uk. So that's inquiries at thetizeroffpodcast.co.uk. Mortgages! So my topic this week is actually to do with a case that I've got ongoing with myself at the moment. So I've had a case that's booked in this week, and it's quite, unfortunately, a bit of a familiar event, and that's where people book in. They've got a parent that has got a property, or they've had a property for years, and for one reason or the other, they just want to give that property to their children. It doesn't have to be parents. It can actually just be people, depending on the lender. It can just be the person who's discounting their property price. And basically this is called concessionary purchase. So concessionary purchase is a form of gifted equity. And with gifted equity, so that money, the gifted equity, is what acts as the concessionary purchase deposit.
So can it be anyone?
To be honest with you, it does depend. You will have cases with certain lenders where on their specific lending criteria, it will say whether it can be a father, a mother, brother or a sister. In some cases, cousin. It's more common for it to be a family member, but you will see cases where they'll accept some other external sources. And it will just depend on, the whole kind of scenario, if they're willing to accept the fact that discount will actually cover.
How far do those external sources extend then?
So to be honest with you, like I said, it does depend on the lender. So some lenders are super flexible in these scenarios. It's very rare, but you might get it where the lender accepts a friend. It's very rare, and you'd still have to look specifically into that lender's criteria via external sourcer again, or a general mortgage sourcer or criteria hub or something like that, because a lot of mortgage brokers, like modern day mortgage brokers like myself, we do use clever little systems that you can just put that criteria in and you'll get answers like this. It is a bit of a sad one in some ways, because people have spent years saving that money up. Some people have already built years of saving an actual savings pot up, and then suddenly they get to the point where they go, oh, hang on, you're telling me that my parents, if they discount that price they discount the purchase price, the money can act as a deposit, and the person's just they can't believe it. It's almost unbelievable.
It's a catch-22 really. It's a bit of a bonus, as well as they've sort of wasted that time, but that's what we're here for. Nobody else has to waste their time.
Yes, exactly. The not waste your time police. We have had these cases before, too many times in my opinion, because I'm happy when they come in, but I'm also unhappy to hear that this person didn't really know this was available as quick as they did. But you know, it makes my job. It does make my day when I hear this, because you suddenly hear them saying, "Oh my God, like this is my deposit. That means I can spend this money on doing the house up instead." You know, I've had cases where their father was a buy-to-let owner. You know, he's had multiple properties, and he said, "Look, I'll give you this property at a lower price." They've already prepped their deposit. You know, they've got 5-6 grand saved for a small deposit, or in some cases 10-15 grand. And then, you know, they've suddenly seen that deposit's not needed. You can spend it on furniture, you can spend it on anything. You know, you don't have to spend it at all. But the main thing is the deposit is the discount. So whatever the purchase price is, for example, if you've got a 100 grand house and the father says, or mother or grandparent, they say we want to sell it for 80 grand. That 20 grand difference is your deposit. So your 20 grand deposit is coming from the discounted amount between 100 and 80,000. So because he's knocked it, or she's knocked it, you know, they have knocked it from 100 to 80, that acts as your deposit. And you know, I've had cases where it's been the grandparent, and specifically, I'm sure if they're watching, they'll know this case where their grandparent was saying that they wanted to move out the area because the area was a bit too quiet for them. They said, "Look, if you're struggling to buy a property, just have my property." It was during COVID. They said, "I'll take 30 grand off the property." That person was then told by me that 30 grand would act as their deposit because it's been discounted off the purchase price. And again, because we're impartial, I'm not saying that I'm the knight in shining armour. There's been many other brokers that have probably done this, but it's just important. It's so important that you, as you know, the British public, Wales, England, you know, some parts of Scotland if they're listening, Northern Ireland, but
There's a few other countries out there as well.
There's a few other countries out there, Australia if you want to go to a completely different market. But yeah, the main thing to know is that you should know the discount basically is the deposit. So concessionary purchase, the discount off the purchase price is the deposit.
So with this then,
Yeah.
I find this really interesting. Can they use this as well as a deposit?
So you can use it as well as a deposit, and with some lenders it is also important to know, with some lenders it is their policy that you still need to give a little bit of a deposit. However, with a lot of lenders you don't need any deposit of your own funds. No own funds, as we say, is needed with most lenders, but there are lenders that require it. And also on top of that, if you want to bring your monthly payments down, you know, pay a bit more off, you know, add a little bit more, because don't forget that's sort of providing an overall better sort of loan to value. So your loan to value is always going to be better if you did it like that anyway. And remember, loan to value is basically what deposit or equity you have in the property. So yeah, it's a good idea.
You are my knight in shining armour, by the way, and
Yeah, you know, say that a bit louder, Tom.
I don't know about you, Tom, but I found that really, really fascinating.
it's not something I knew a lot about, so I absolutely loved it. Yeah.
And
Cheers, and
You're welcome.
We'll be
You're welcome.
We'll be talking more about that.
we're not taking the piss out of you anymore.
I know. Thank you guys.
Okay, so that's it. Time for the quiz answers.
What was the question number one? I remember what it was. What name is given to the tax which often must be paid to the government on purchase of the property?
And the answer is stamp duty. So there's thresholds to this as well. In England, it's £250,000, and in Wales, it's £225,000.
Yeah, we also, in Wales, we actually call it land transaction tax
do
as
call it
well,
land
which not
transaction
everyone
tax,
knows. Not that it matters, but it's LTT for us.
It is indeed.
What's quiz answer 2?
Number 2, how old is the average first-time buyer? Go on then, Dav.
I was
How
miles off on this. I was miles off.
And what is it?
It's 32.1 as an average in the whole of the UK, apart from London, wasn't it, Tom?
Yeah, London, obviously it's a bit more expensive there, as you can imagine, and as you know, and it's only just a bit higher. I was actually surprised at how close it was.
Yeah.
So it's 33.8 in London.
You know what, that doesn't surprise me as well, you know, from the mortgage side. You know, you can see that's more and more apparent now with, you obviously cost of living, people building their money up. It's
a bit younger than I thought, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. Andrew, I can't remember your questions. What were they?
I've got the fun ones. So, yeah. Yeah. And my question was obviously, what is the minimum income proof you need to get a mortgage? And actually, the answer is a bit of a trick question, because the real answer is there's no set answer. It will depend on lender. Some lenders even say that you have no income proof, or just a contract to say that you're about to start a new job if you've worked within the same industry. It's very uncommon for them to do it with different industries or temporary contracts. That's very unlikely. But if you're a teacher, like our soundman, or if you're, an accountant, or just anything, if you work in the steelworks but you're going to another steelworks job, if you've got a contract that says that you're going into that new job and that contract is pretty much exactly the same thing you've done before, a lot of lenders will take that on. And in the worst case, if you get one pay slip, believe it or not, some lenders will even give you what they call a day one mortgage, or day one mortgage employment, which is quite common. But yeah, that's number 3.
So number 4, a credit file is mandatory for all mortgage applications. True or false?
And the answer is it's false, because it will depend on policies of that broker that you go to. Generally speaking, it's bad policy if you don't get a credit report, because at the end of the day, you could be missing key information, CCJs, electoral roll information, address history. All of that can be quite useful on a credit report. But in reality, it will depend on the broker you go to. Some brokers actually have credit reports built in, but some brokers do require you to get like a Check My File, Experian, Equifax credit report.
Lenders? Or
And brokers.
Okay.
Did I say lenders?
No, it's the brokers.
Oh, no, brokers. It will depend on the broker.
Okay, cool.
Because, don't forget, if you go to a lender directly, I will say that as well. Lenders, if you go direct to a lender, it will depend on the lender as well. But if you go to a broker, then a broker's policy could be that you have a credit report, and then another broker's could be that we've got one built in, and a lender specifically, a lot of the time, deal directly with Equifax, Experian, or whoever.
I honestly thought, I don't know about you, but I honestly thought it was mandatory. I just had a
It's mandatory
perception.
per who you go to.
Yeah, fair enough.
Generally speaking, it's bad practice if you don't know.
Well, thank you for that.
Go on, Tommy, what's answer to the last one?
The question, how many property spaces are there on the Monopoly board, yeah?
That was the question, correct.
I think there's 22.
What do you reckon, Ant?
I think it is 36, just for fun.
That's ridiculous, mate.
Tom spoiled it. Tom was right. It's 22. 22,
Come on!
22 property spaces on a Monopoly board.
12 on one corner.
I just
10
like
on
the
other.
number of 36, to be fair.
I like number 44.
Less about our numbers. Tip of the week.
Tip of the week. So, tip of the week this week, we've actually got a bit of material for you. We've put together a series of questions. When you're sitting down and you're interviewing your estate agent, there's a list of questions to ask them. They are pucker.
And you can actually access that in the show notes. There'll be a little link to the PDF file. I'm sure, Andrew, you'll be able to sort that, won't you?
I should, I think. Do you know what? I'm just glad Dav just said pucker. I'll do anything now he said that.
Perfect. Check the show notes for the PDF, and you definitely should download that, because these are important questions to ask the estate agent when they come.
100%.
Pucker. So if you've got any questions for us, whether it's mortgage or property, the email is inquiries@thetiserofpodcast.co.uk, and these lads next to me also want to make sure that the area stats, we want to make sure that you get an email in regards to what area you're living in, or you might want us to give stats on in terms of property next time. So finally, thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you follow us on any of the pages. Like, comment, do everything you can to support us. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
See ya.